Hello and welcome. My name is Michał Banasiak, and this is the Institute of New Europe's series of interviews within the Polish-Czech Forum project. Our guest today is Jan Macháček, Czech columnist. Nice to have you here.
Nice to see you, nice to hear you, and thanks for the invitation.
I would like to start with your opinion on the current condition of relations between Poland and Czechia.
I think that the relationship is very good at the moment. Both of the governments, especially government in Czech Republic, are emphasizing that the state of the relationship between Poland and Czech Republic is very positive, and both countries are strong supporters of Ukraine. Both countries are helping Ukraine as far as the defense equipment is concerned. Both countries have huge influx of Ukrainian refugees, which are getting integrated into an extent in our economies. So we have a lot of mutual interests are strengthened at the moment due to the geopolitical situation. And plus there is a new Czech ambassador on the way to Poland. So that's just for the beginning. So perhaps you can ask more specifically next round of questions.
Yes, the next round I would like to start with the question on the problematic issues, because we know that through the decades we had some problematic issues. Of course, also during the time when Poland and Czechoslovakia at that time were part of the Eastern Bloc. And what do you think now are the most problematic issues? Are they still connected with the past?
The most painful problematic issue is definitely the lack of infrastructure connections between the both countries. We are neighboring countries, and we have, in many respects, less infrastructure connections than we used to have at the moment. There are very few railway connections. There are almost no highway connections, and it is improving only very, very slowly. There's also a lack of functioning connection in energy infrastructure. So, but I think this is, if we look at it from the geographical point of view, it is very surprising, because both of these economies are growing. We have a technical recession at the moment, but these are in normal conditions fast-growing economies and neighboring countries, and they should be much better interconnected as far as the infrastructure is concerned. So this is, to me, this is the most problematic solution. There is actually maybe Czech Republic is partially more to blame. For instance, in as far as the highways are concerned, there is a connection to Czech highway going from Prague through Hradec Králové to direction to Wrocław in Poland, but whereas Poles had finished their part of the highway, as far as I understand it, Czechs are still have a long way to go. But both countries are lacking, like, also fast trains connections, both within the country and across the border. Obviously, it would be more natural to use the corridors through southern Silesia and Moravia. And also these days, the very important topic is energy security. As both of us know, and Czech Republic would certainly need better connections to Polish ports, etc., and Polish energy infrastructure which is being developed at the Baltic Sea.
You've mentioned energy, so I would like to ask you about the energy situation in Czechia now. We know that your country is among those who resigned from Russian oil and gas, at least partially. And how did Czechia deal with that energy crisis last year, and how is it prepared for the coming winter?
Situation exactly a year ago looked very dramatic, and we all remember that the prices of natural gas were through the roof. There was a physical lack of it. Prices of energy on the energy stock exchange at energy exchange in Leipzig were also through the roof. People were really making preparations for a potentially very tough winter, and these days, or at least from the beginning of the spring, we know that situation is much more positive. These hikes in energy prices were, to an extent, very artificial, caused by the manipulations of deliveries from Russia, but also caused by the lack of preparedness of all European countries and lack of infrastructure. But what certainly helped is the construction of these new mobile LNG stations in Germany and Holland. Czech Republic also managed through the energy dominant mostly state-owned company ČEZ to buy a stake in these terminals, and we are fulfilling the capacity of our reserve tanks, etc. Also, Czech government nationalized or bought from German companies our reserve tanks for natural gas. So this will also, they were bought by the energy infrastructure company ČEPS, which is the owner of electricity networks in this country. So also it unlike those pessimistic predictions in September last year, it turned out that there is a lot of natural gas globally in the world, and that if it is somehow managed smartly, that Europe doesn't have to, and Central European countries doesn't have to face some dramatic or catastrophic consequences. So so that's one thing. With the oil, I can correct you with this. Czech Republic has together with Hungary and I believe Austria also has exceptions on some deliveries of Russian oil, but it applies only to pipeline connection. Actually, one pipeline connection through Druzhba pipeline, as far as I understand it. I don't know if Czech Republic will use this exception fully, but it can still, and it is still buying some Russian, I don't know exactly how much Russian oil through the Druzhba pipeline. So we have negotiated an exception on the EU level. So we are fully independent of Russian deliveries as far as natural gas is concerned, but we are still partially dependent on the Russian oil delivered through the pipeline. So embargo on the Russian oil applies only to different deliveries than through Druzhba or through oil tankers and facilities in the ports.
As you mentioned, Poland and Czechia both host a lot of Ukrainian refugees now. And how does it look in Czechia? What are the government programs to help these people?
These people mostly have a statute of refugees, but it will definitely be up to these people. That we don't prepare how they're gonna decide about their future life. It depends on the development of the war. It depends on the future reconstruction of Ukraine and Ukrainian economy. But I think that we can clearly say that very probably not all these people will come back to Ukraine. Some of them will stay in our countries. That's kind of clear, and it will be a result also of, we can say, like market forces to an extent. We shouldn't only emphasize that our countries are helping these people, because we Poles and Czechs know very well that these Ukrainians as a labor force are very much helping to our economies and are very, due to the lack of language barriers, and our languages are close, and we can basically understand each other without any problems. So our we had a very low unemployment and lack of labor, both skilled and unskilled, in both countries. So without Ukrainian workforce, our part of our construction part of the economy would come to a halt. Also, Ukrainian ladies are working in supermarkets and in all kinds of services. So it's not that only we are helping, but they are also helping our economies to function and grow. So this is my impression.
And what about the migrants from the Middle East and from the Northern African countries? Is that a big discussion about those groups in Czechia? Is it a problem? Is it an issue for Czech people?
It is a very political issue, because in principle, we are against, Czech population is strongly against mandatory quotas for refugees from coming from Muslim countries or Africa, and government negotiated something on behalf of Czech Republic in the European Union. It's not very popular. They say we have an exception until we have this huge influx of Ukrainian refugees. But generally, Czech population is quite welcoming to immigrants with whom they have experienced that they are hardworking, contributing to the economy. We have a huge Vietnamese minority in the country, and Czech have no troubles with integrating Vietnamese, with cooperating with Vietnamese, and because they are very hard working people, and they don't create any ghettos, and they don't cause any social disruptions. Similarly, Czechs have no problems with refugees coming from Ukraine, but they certainly are very, maybe it is similar with Poland, quite skeptical with with the potential influx of refugees from Muslim countries, because they are afraid of ghettos being created, like in Germany. They are being afraid that it is not that easy to integrate these people into the society, into our culture, etc. So Czechs are kind of worried about this. On the other hand, it is clear that until now these people from Muslim countries or from Africa are not coming much into our countries. And even if you would agree with some quotas, they will resettle back into Germany, Holland, and France and these countries because they have their family connections there and they have their relatives there. So, but it doesn't have to be like this always. And this idea of a potential influx of refugees from Middle East and Africa is not popular among Czech population. Czech population clearly doesn't like such an idea, and I think it is very similar in Poland.
We have Poland and Czechia, both countries cooperating within the V4, and many say that this group is frozen now, that because of the foreign policy of Hungary, the cooperation, the political cooperation is not possible anymore. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that there were some voices that V4 should be frozen or limited or even cancelled, but I think that common sense is that there is no reason to cancel regional cooperation because of the development in Hungary. I think that the position of both government and also the president of the country is that V4 is here to stay, and it doesn't have only political. It doesn't have only political or geopolitical level. It is also a cultural level. It has its fund, which is providing a lot of funds for culture exchange, for cultural cooperation. As far as politics, it is very important to emphasize that it should be the fact that they have in Hungary, they have different opinions on some foreign policy issues. So V4 should serve like a platform to discuss it. If someone has a different opinion, we should try to convince him in open conversation that we have a different opinions and we follow so it would be very interesting to find out what is leading Hungarians to their foreign policy positions and discuss with them and perhaps argue with them. On arguing is a normal phenomenon in open platform in open society. So free exchange of ideas and attitudes, explaining of attitudes. It's always better to speak with your partners, or even if partners starting to depart from your common position, it's always good to talk and try to find out why, and it's definitely better than to trying to isolate somebody. This is my very personal opinion. So on the other hand, like it's also it would be not very smart to cancel some platform or frozen some platform just before we expect some elections. And so we will have elections in Slovakia, we will have elections in your country. So regional cooperation, I believe, should stay here. And it's a little bit, I always compare it with the civic society, that we should welcome that. Whereas we are welcoming the civic society of different voluntary groupings, we should also have like different regional and voluntary groupings within the European Union. But it shouldn't be only V4, it should be, we also have this Austerlitz format, we have cooperation with German-speaking countries, which is Germany and Austria. And there is a tradition of it within the European Union. You have Benelux, you have Nordic countries, and all that. This is all, I think, making Europe more kind of colorful. And so if you have differences, you should speak about these differences to conclude it.
And another regional platform of cooperation is there is initiatives what is the political perception and also the social perception of that initiative in Czechia? What is also your opinion on development of this initiative? Do you think that it is the platform that can be developed in the coming years?
It started with a huge, or it at least seemed to me, with a huge support of Poland, but also the US under the previous administration and under the previous administrations. And it seems to me that there is not a clear sign from the US administration that they are strongly supporting this initiative. I myself witnessed, it's about a year ago, visit of a deputy of US Trade Department for Europe, and when she was asked about 3Cs, she said she doesn't know what it is. So it wasn't a State Department, it was Trade Department, but anyway, it's a little bit unclear how much supportive Americans are, and their role in the 3C project is clearly very important, because they have the financial resources. They have it made sense to me that should also be an American project to support 3C's initiative, but under current administration, it seems to me that somehow the enthusiasm is lacking there. So if Americans are not going to increase their participation in 3Cs, we should reevaluate the whole project and perhaps think about it more from purely European perspective. But definitely most of the projects, especially those who are concerning the infrastructure, which I mentioned at the beginning, make sense to me. It makes certainly a lot of sense to integrate European countries as far as the infrastructure and energy infrastructure mainly is, from north to the south, and this link is strategically very important. But we all know that European defense is into an extent outsourced to the US, and whenever we think about something strategic, we should try to get involved Americans as much as possible. I have certain doubts about the potential enthusiasm for 3C's initiative from the Western Europe, because if you don't have American funds and American banks financing it, you can have Western European banks and funds financing it, but there I am afraid is even lower level of enthusiasm. So at this moment, most of our countries are lacking financial resources to somehow integrate these countries more as far in energy more and infrastructure more deeper and more actively.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for inviting me again, and thanks to those of you who are listening or will be listening.